Back done talking about Western Michigan. Not done talking about Western Michigan. We are going to go back and talk about Duke. Matt Stevens joins us now, the Illini Guys beat writer. He was in Durham, and he saw a nice crowd to start the game, and then there was not many people left when he left. It was just a few Illinois fans at that point. But Matt got a chance to see up close and personal the second half that the Illini just put the whooping on the Blue Devils down there in Durham. Matt, thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts on this second half from the Fighting Illini?
There were a lot of Illini fans in Durham. I was impressed with the road turnout. I was also, obviously, as I told Mike on the postgame show that we did on Illini Guys, like I was really impressed with the second half. And I felt it's a definition, guys, of coaches that have been around each other for 3 years, veteran head coach, veteran quarterback, 18 starters returning. We're not going to panic because we haven't played our best in 30 minutes on the road. Oh, by the way, we're up by one. And if we play better, I think we can pull this out. And I think Illinois did everything they wanted to do in the second half. They moved the ball. They continued to turn Duke over. And then in the fourth quarter, they salted it away by being able to run the ball some way, somehow, whether that's with Khalil Valentine, with Luke Weltmeyer, with Caden Fagan up the middle a couple of times, whether it's with Jordan Anderson on third and shorts. They've figured out a way to run the ball and move the chains in that regard. So I think that Illinois can take the last 30 minutes and go, hey, we figured this out because we're older, we're veterans, and we just didn't panic. And I was really impressed with what I saw at Illinois. And you know what? Even when they were struggling in the first half, I was impressed with their way of just not panicking in their first road test, kind of surviving the storm that was Duke. And then you looked up at halftime and they were still up one. So there's a lot of things you can take from Duke that are teaching moments, but there are a lot of things you can take from this win against Duke that I think Illinois is going to look back and say that was maybe the turning point of our season because, guys, I think Duke's going to win some football games this year. And if you're an Illinois fan right now, you're probably the biggest out-of-town Duke fan ever because later on in life, you want that to be a good win. And I think there's a chance that it could be.
When you had Duke 14-13 at half, very close in the game, do you think there was a sense of confidence on that Illini sideline to start the half? Because if you watch that third quarter and you don't see the first half, you wonder why it wasn't 70-0.
Yeah, Mike, honestly, I feel like Illinois went into halftime thinking this ought to be 21-6. Because remember, they were driving and they couldn't get that last drive of the first half in the end zone. And they gave Duke the ball. And like a lot of teams do, you give the team that Brett Bielema was trying to double dip. He was trying to get that touchdown at the end of the half. Illinois knew they had the kickoff. They were going to return the kickoff in the second half, and they were going to put the game away right at that moment. I think that Illinois went into halftime, Mike, really ticked off that it wasn't 21-6 and it was 14-13 because they felt like, now we haven't played well, but we've played better than this. And I also feel, and Mike, you and I talked about this on the postgame show. I think Barry Lunney treats the 15-play script a little bit differently than a lot of other offensive coordinators. I feel like a lot of offensive coordinators in college football treat the 15-play script like we're trying to go out for the knockout punch and make it 7-0 or 14-0 really early. Barry Lunney kind of treats it like a boxing match, like a long boxing match, and it's, hey, I'm gonna see what this defense is doing in these first 15 plays, and then I'm gonna go through my script and go, okay, this is working, this isn't. This is what we have to fix. This is what we have to basically throw in the trash can for the second half. And I thought that they did that. And I thought he got together with Luke Altmaier and said, hey, look, Luke, you got to get the ball out, man. I know you're doing really well about reading defenses and everything, but you've got to get the ball out as quickly as possible because we're having trouble blocking them. And Duke's got a really good defensive front. So I thought the adjustments that not only Barry Lunney made, but also Aaron Henry made to continue to do what he was doing with his defensive front and his secondary really turned the tide. And I really felt like analytically people call it turnover luck, but I really feel like Illinois made their own luck with these turnovers, and that's why the margin was what it was.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned getting the ball out. One of the things we've seen in the 2 weeks, he gets the ball out, and he's got a guy who has become his go-to guy.
Sure.
And that's Hank Beatty. Number 80, 14 targets, 13 receptions. He's the second best Rochester graduate to be on our show. And so it's great to see him do well. Are you surprised at how successful? We know last year he was an all Big Ten punt returner. Sure. So he's got some wiggle and some game, but he's always had great hands. And now we're seeing him evolve. And that's that growth.
Have we had Lunt on the show?
No, not yet. Maybe we should. Then he could be the third best Rocket.
Here's the thing about Hank is that I really feel like he has taken what he has learned from Isaiah Williams and taken it to another level. That's what I feel like, Brad. I feel like people still forget that Isaiah caught 80 balls back-to-back years. He had a really good last 2 years at Illinois. And who was sitting there at that slot position that was watching him? Who was sitting there watching him be a punt return? Hank Beatty. That's what the development of Brett Bielema's program does, is that you take this veteran guy that you can trust and you put him in this spotlight role, and the guy that's behind him is supposed to basically watch everything that he does, and by the time that he gets his opportunity, go do it and do it better than that guy. And that's what Hank is doing. And I really think that Hank has turned himself, honestly, into somebody who was a reliable piece in a wide receiver room at a power conference program. And he was. Like, people underestimate how talented and athletic and how absolutely good that kid really was, even in his first couple years at Illinois. But he's taken it to another level and is potentially getting the eyeballs of the three-letter league now, Brad. And I really think that there's people now that are recognizing why he was the Gatorade Illinois High School Player of the Year at Rochester. And it wasn't just because of Rochester's funky, crazy system. Like, he's able to do so many different things. He's able to be the Swiss Army knife for Barry Lunny, that he can put him in so many different positions. And quite frankly, guys, on the wild Hank that scored where he is absolutely untouched, there isn't anybody else on the roster, I think, that Barry Lunny would have absolutely had do that than Hank Beatty, because of the amount of trust that he has, the amount of intelligence that he has, and basically the understanding of how he was at least going to be responsible with the football. Every time, I really believe that Hank, one of the things that I think that Illinois does in the second half is it's not about plays, it's about players. And we need to get 80 the ball. I don't care what we call, we need to get 80 the ball. If we're in the red zone, we need to get 0 the ball, because Justin Bowick is probably going to catch it. It's probably going to score. If
all he does is catch touchdowns. All he does is catch touchdowns.
If we get in the red zone now, I think that they feel good about throwing Cole Rusk a jump ball after what happened at Duke. I think that he's got some confidence doing that. It's about players so much as what Barry Lunny calls. And I think that he has really transformed this offense about, if I call this, then that's why, then this play is going to get Hank the ball. It's very basketball-like, Brad, in the sense of, we're going to make this call, but this call is to get him the ball. That's the idea. And I think that they call so many things right now to get Hank the ball specifically. And you guys know that I was talking about this, and everybody else was, a couple of months ago. Who was the wide receivers that were going to step up? Luke Altmaier said we need an alpha in the room. Turns out it's a 5'10", 185-pound kid from Rochester named Hank Beatty who might be the alpha in that room right now.
Who else has kind of stepped forward in the first 2 games and started to make a name for themselves?
I think Khalil Valentine. I don't know if they feel good about him being the primary running back, because he's still learning how to pass block. And I think that there's instances where they feel like if Aiden or Caden are out there, Luke might not get killed. But he's getting better. And then you see those flashes of, boom, we might be able to break one for 20 yards. Boom, we might be able to get one for 15 yards here on a trap play. He just has that ability right now. And he's very humble right now. And he understands. He's one of those kids that's not ticked off right now that he's number 3 on the depth chart, because quite frankly, guys, if you're the number 3 tailback in a Brett Bielema system on the depth chart, you're going to play and you're probably going to get the football. That's the thing that he understands. And I do think, again, like I talked to you about Isaiah with Hank, being behind Caden and Aiden right now for Khalil Valentine is the best thing for him, because he continues to get to learn behind guys that are veterans that understand what the heck they're supposed to be doing. And Khalil continues to talk to us this week about getting better every day, just being behind them. But I think that if you're looking for a lightning type tailback that can give you a quick hit, I think he's established himself. And then on defense, I talked about him all off season because they talked about him all spring. But Tanner Heckel has become a guy that I think that they can really rely on. Probably one of the better 8-man football high school players that's ever come to a Power 5 conference school. And again, a guy that sits behind Xavier Scott, sits behind Caleb Patterson, watches what Matthew Bailey and Mac Rasitic have been doing since he's gotten here, and has been able to transform himself. And another guy that has been basically a special teams warrior for Robbie Disher for all of last year, and is taking those ball skills and putting them on defense on display. And that's what you saw with that pick, and the play that he made on the muff punt to knock it to Tyler Strain. and then on the fumble recovery. So there's on the forced fumble. So you have all of those things that Tanner Heckle is making plays on right now that I don't think anybody thought in his second year at Illinois, coming out of 8-man football in Kansas, he was going to be able to do. The coaching staff did. So those are two guys on both sides of the ball that I think had breakout performances that aren't in probably the 2 deep right now.
And for those people who want to know great 8-man football players in high school, or Dean Steinkuhler of Nebraska, Rashawn Salam of Colorado, Nolan Cromwell of Kansas, and Chad Greenway of Iowa. So Tanner Heckle might get his name in some lights here in the future.
Nolan Cromwell, I remember that. Didn't he win like the Superstars or something like that? The best athlete, or like it was a hurdler, and
he was a former KU quarterback, and then played safety in the
NFL,
and now he's the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M.
Man, he was like crazy athletic. Sorry, just throwing out random things there, random facts as we go through this. Matt, I do have a little bit of a concern about sometimes that maybe the defense at times with this group. A couple of things that they're but they're forcing turnovers, they're getting the ball. So I guess that's a good thing. And I thought in the second half, they're obviously much, much better against a really good Duke quarterback, obviously a really highly paid and good Duke quarterback in offense. So maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm not really concerned about this game. Should I be concerned about Western Michigan?
Not really, in the sense that I think that the one thing Western Michigan needs to do in order to win is run the football. Guess what? That's one of Brett Bielema's 3 keys: run the ball, stop the run, cover kicks. I think what Lance Taylor's doing at Western Michigan is a really good rebuild job. And I think that he's got it going in the way that after this is year 3 for him, I think that they have it going once they get into MAC play. I think they're going to be pretty competitive, if not near the top of their division in the MAC. But as you've seen, guys, the gap between teams that are like at Illinois, which are even maybe in the middle tier or the top middle tier to the top tier of the Big Ten, there's such a big gap there between them and the MAC anymore. And I feel like from a talent standpoint, Lance Taylor is going to need a 5 turnover game like Illinois had last week in order to be competitive in this football game. And I think he knows it, but I do think that they were competitive, especially on defense, trying to hold down Aiden Childs 2 weeks ago when they played Michigan State in East Lansing. So I think that to see that Illinois is going to go in and win by 50 is not the case. I don't think Lance Taylor, a way to prepare his team in a way that's going to happen. But I do think Illinois can win handedly and get a lot of guys like they did 2 weeks ago against Western Illinois, get a lot of guys on the field and get a lot of guys some reps for this game before they enter Big Ten play.
Yeah, they did a good job against Michigan State, particularly in the second half. What's your expectations for the game if you had to predict Illinois versus Western?
2 teams that I think are going to want to run the football. And the reason I say that, Mike, is because like I talked to Bart Miller, and they are not thrilled with the way that they ran the football in the first half and probably the first 3 quarters. I think they need to establish something before they enter Big Ten play, because if you can't run the ball in Big Ten play, and as we've seen guys the last 2 years, Illinois has over the course of the season continue to get better running the ball. By the time that October and November rolls around, they are really one of the better teams running the football in the Big Ten. They need to establish this coming into this game. I think they need to get Caden Fagan some touches. If Aiden Lawfrey's ankle is better this week, they're probably going to be smart with him. So you're going to see a lot more Khalil Valentine. You might see some Cedric Weish in this area. You might see some Jordan Anderson. And so I think that there's an opportunity here for Illinois to establish the line of scrimmage and establish a run game and feel good about that before they go to Indiana.
Well, and I will say this, the Indiana game is going to loom large after this one, but a 3-0 start is obviously a place you want to be, and then you can go take on the Hoosiers. The good thing we know is the Hoosiers have played nobody of consequence going into that game because they don't play anyone of consequence in their non-conference schedule.
As their head coach.
Yes, they do not. They don't play anyone.
It's an SEC schedule, dang it.
Mm-hmm.
SEC. Yeah, I don't know what SEC stands for, but it is not Southeastern Conference. So Illini, Western Michigan this weekend, and then we get the Hoosiers. Matt Stevens from Illini Guys, thanks for joining us tonight, or today, I guess. We'll be right back after this, wrap this up. Mike and I will have some great things to talk about in just a moment, including a huge boxing match.